Those of us in grief and anger about the U.S. government's enabling Israel's daily massacres of Palestinian human beings, I want to offer a way to escalate our protests. But first, I have a story for you. In April of 1972, a wave of protests swept college campuses against the university's complicity with the Vietnam War. I was a law student at Stanford then, and we noticed that a photographer was going around taking close-up photos of the faces of everybody participating in the demonstrations. So a couple of us asked him who he was, and he said he was somebody from the San Francisco Chronicle. We called the Chronicle. That guy was sitting at his desk at the time. The photographer on campus was working for the Stanford University Police, and by identifying himself as he did, had committed the crime of impersonating somebody else. So, a couple of us arrested him using our powers of citizen's arrest. When we let him know that our duty was to turn him over to the nearest peace officer, he relaxed and complied because the campus was crawling with riot cops and the nearest officers were about 20 paces away. We turned him over to them. They released him immediately, took us to see a deputy district attorney who gave us a lecture and released us. This piece of guerrilla theater generated some nice publicity, and an embarrassed university administration announced they were no longer employing outside photographers to photograph demonstrators. So what does that have to do with today? Well, every U.S. senator or representative who has voted to send funds and assistance to help Israel with its slaughter of Palestinians is a federal felon, and we should arrest them when we can. The legal analysis is straightforward. Israel is clearly committing genocide as defined by the International Genocide Convention. United States law makes it a federal felony, published by up to 20 years in prison and a big fine, to commit genocide as defined in that international convention. Section 2 of Title 18 of the United States Code makes anyone who aids and abets any federal felony, even to a small extent, equally guilty of that felony as long as they actually did intend to help. Oh, and I forgot to mention that the crime's a serious one, punishable by 20 years imprisonment for each offense, which is why I say that the majority of our federal legislators are federal felons. Imagine the political impact of a wave of such arrests sweeping the country the way encampments on college campuses did this spring. The dramatic escalation of our tactics would certainly garner news coverage. If it's widespread enough, Congresspeople would start demanding security whenever they're out in public. Imagine the spectacle of them publicly acknowledging that they need to be protected from their own constituents who might arrest them for being felons. Finally, I can imagine that with a few legislators being branded by their constituents as the felons that they actually are, would find as they look in the mirror that that has added significantly to the pressures for them to reverse their stances. So these folks are arrestable, but doing it right requires some serious preparation and assembling a team, learning how to properly and professionally alert the media, and doing some research to find out the correct procedures for doing a citizen's arrest safely and effectively in your jurisdiction. All that is too much to cover in a short video, but I've written a longer essay that spells it all out. You can use the bit.ly link or the QR code to take a look at that essay. If you find it valuable, please share it widely. This is something that needs to be passed on, and clapping your hands there or clicking on the heart on the video or making comments will also help the idea gain visibility. I can say from my 1972 experience that carrying out this kind of an action with a photographer and a reporter a couple of feet away was edgy but fun. Let me know how it goes for you.